Okay, we are recording. So Ashley, thanks for joining Ian and I today. We're obviously really keen to get some feedback on your experience of working with us. When we first engage with the team and before we turn up for workshops, we send questionnaires around, and your team responded and they gave us lots of insight into how the business was working. But one of the things that I remember coming into the workshops in the UK with you, remembering was a number of the comments were cynical about the value they thought OKRs could bring before we arrived. Do you remember their feedback at the end of the 2 days?
At the end of the 2 days, it was completely different. They all found that session useful. I think they had initial concerns before that it was going to be another piece of fluff, which we've done in the past. But once we spent the 2 days, then we got into it. We spoke together as a leadership team. They started to see the value in it and how we could move forward, and how it wasn't just going to be something we talk about once and put to one side. It's actually actionable things that we're all going to work towards. I think that was the first time all 13 of us actually got together in the same room in a very long time. Yeah, one of the other things I think they mentioned was communication as well. So they definitely came away from that feeling like everyone had a better understanding of what each other department was doing.
Yeah, I remember. And obviously we got to a point where you drafted your first OKRs by the end of the workshop, and we sort of committed to making progress on a few. And at the end of the quarter, obviously, we've done a retrospective with you. So without getting into the specifics of those OKRs, what were your key learnings during the first quarter?
Don't go away 2 weeks after setting the first OKRs, because we had that draft phase, and then in hindsight we probably should have had another meeting where we thrashed them out, which is what we've done this time, and sort of said, are we happy with this? Definitely went too broad first time rounds with what we were trying to do, but I actually think it was a good thing to do that, because when we started getting into it and started questioning, well, how are we going to do this, how are we going to measure this, we've managed to make a load of new reports off the back of that, but then also come to the conclusion, right, we're biting off more than we can chew here, i.e. data and tracking is always going to be something that a company wants to improve. Having it as an OKR, it didn't quite work, but we kind of needed to do that ourselves and learn ourselves basically that it didn't work to go forward. So second quarter around, they've become a lot more customer focused, which is what our business is about, and it's that whole measurement piece as well. We were thinking of good ideas, oh yeah, we can do that, but then when it actually comes to, well, how are we actually going to measure that and how are we going to know we're going to do it, it's made any impact. That was where the sticking point was. So that's where a lot of the learnings have come from in the first quarter. Although we did make progress on our OKRs, that's the key sort of learning bits. And now they're coming into conversations. Yeah, I think I've got this idea of, okay, how are we going to know if this works or not? And moving away from what sometimes happens in this business, we fall into the sort of tick list and ticking off your projects, and yeah, I've done that great, I've done that piece of work, and that's almost what the guys were falling into, and they've come sort of back around, so okay, well, I've got an idea, how do I measure it's going to work.
Did you expect to spend as much time working on things like data models and metrics versus OKRs before you started the process?
KPIs was a hot topic, and it always has been. We've kind of been sort of going through the mist with a blindfold on. We think we need to measure that, we think we need to measure this. There's always been a caveat where we can't quite measure that, we can't quite measure this, but now having a discussion as a team, it's okay, right, well, what can we measure, what are we accepting? This, I think a lot of people in the business are, right, if we're not 100% sure that is completely accurate, then we're just not going to look at it. Even if it was 95% there, people would just discard it. Oh yeah, but, and now it's okay, well, we accept where we are with our data. We know it's just an ongoing project. We're going to improve, but if it helps us make a better decision and we see an impact in terms of customers or revenue or whatever, then we should do it. So it's a work in progress. It's definitely, as I'm building out the data models now, it's just, I'm conscious there's a lot of items in there and I don't want it to become messy. So it's really just kind of almost honing in on what's important and what's easy for the team to understand. So I think sometimes they can get a bit overwhelmed thinking it way too much. So putting in a tree format should help.
Yeah, I mean, metric trees are a great tool for sure. And would you say you're how much more data informed as an organization are you now?
Yeah, we're on our way. I'd say we were very immature as a business as a whole. The digital side, they're always in the data, so they're pretty good on it. We, in the sales department, we've had, the very basic stuff. But as a collective, we're certainly getting better. There's reports being made now where we can look at our specific customer base we want to go after, be able to track their habits. So we're building towards being a lot more data literate than we were, say, 6 months to 12 months ago. So I know we've been discussing, one of the key decisions we've made is obviously switching over to being trade only. We're just about to start a series of experiments on how we position our website and position ourselves in the market to dissuade the customer we don't want, but then still attract the customer we do want. So it's that. If I go back 6 to 12 months, we wouldn't have even considered that. Like, it would be, oh, we're going to change something on the site. It wouldn't be that, okay, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work for 2 weeks or whatever, but then let's try something else. That culture is starting to appear now, and it's growing over time.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And would you say, when you're getting together, you said at the start that those meetings are infrequent, but would you say just generally as a leadership team, you're talking more about data when you're having conversations now? Yeah,
and that's actually another key point from the retrospective, is that we had some OKRs that were very siloed and people were going off and working on their own. But now we've said, right, okay, any OKRs going forwards, they have to be cross-functional. There has to be someone because there is that coming. It's basically trying to replicate that coming together once a quarter. If they're all working on OKRs at the same time, there's not something going on here, say, and a marketing email that completely just discounts what's going over here on a specific OKR. So yeah, it's really that cross collaboration piece and meeting. We're meeting later today. We changed the format of our weekly OKR meeting, and the feedback last week was really good. So it's pushed us to meet together and bring everything together instead of working off in different areas. So it's just the challenge is just making sure we keep that consistent, especially over months like summer when people go away and people got other commitments.
So would you say that your experience of working with us was what you expected, or in some ways another sort of follow up to that was, how was it different?
I thought it'd be a lot more corporate and formal, to be totally honest, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I really didn't know what to expect, because we've never really done anything like this before. We've never really looked externally at anything, really. It's kind of, right, we know what we're doing and we'll do it. And always, I guess there's always nerves as well, bringing in an outside voice. Are the team going to take to them? Is there going to be pushback? What's going to happen there? But I found it a really good experience, not just for me, but especially some of the junior team across the business. You've helped fill sort of the skill gap or the experience gap that we necessarily don't have, and got them thinking about things in different ways. So it's been a positive experience for me.
So you're saying we're human? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Not so corporate, a little bit human.
Absolutely, which is kind of pretty much what we are. You know, we're not the most, as you know, we're not the most formal business in the world, but you know, we're a people business, and you know, both of you guys' experience was really helpful to the team in helping. You know, instead of just hearing my voice, they've got voices outside of the business that have been there, done that, shared their experiences, get them to think about things in different ways. So I've certainly found it beneficial.
We're not dissimilar to a lot of businesses. Actually, we sometimes find it hard to describe what we do, and sometimes it's better to get other people to describe that. So if I had to put you in the spot and describe what we do, other than the kind of the headlines, what would you say we do and who we are?
So you're problem solvers, but you're also eye openers. And what I mean by eye openers is that I know that's like my job is strategy. I know that I can see the bigger picture, but you help people, junior managers and people that not necessarily have looked at that, put what they're doing into the bigger picture, see how it can impact bigger ticket items. You know, that's definitely, we've gone from, especially on the digital side, where they're all so focused on their individual tasks they've got to do every day, you know, like updating some products or whatever. We've gone from that to saying, okay, well, why am I doing that? Why should I do that? How is it going to impact 6 months down the line? And that's definitely where you guys have helped.
That's kind of you. Yeah, it's often very difficult to sort of know precisely what other people see and feel when they're working with you. Kind of, you get into your own groove, and you only know what you know. So those kind of reflections are really, really useful for us. Thank you. And also using the software as well as a central place for your strategy. You mentioned your metrics model and your KPI trees and OKRs, experiments and check-ins, etc. Have you found sort of getting used to that and using that as a sort of centralized place versus all the sort of fragmentation and documents that you would have had?
Yeah, I find it pretty straightforward. I know we've had pushback from, it'd be unnatural to assume we wouldn't have pushback from anyone. Yeah, I have, as you know, pushback from certain teams and individuals, but we're 6 months in now, we're cracking on with it. You know, it's I think where people have been so set in their ways of using stuff, you know, planning out projects to like the minutest detail, is kind of, this is not what this is about. This is about just checking in weekly, monthly, whatever, about, okay, these are the big ticket items that we're working towards and how are we moving. So slowly but surely they're coming around to that. But from my point of view, using it is, it's simple enough that you can pick it up and work things out yourself. Quite often I thought of, you know, dropping you guys a line and asking a question, but then I worked it out within 30 seconds. So, which I think is a good thing. You know, we live in a complicated world. Sometimes keeping it simple, especially with what we do, just works best.
I think the team sort of realised that we're not trying to replace the team that uses Jira or the sales team that uses Salesforce. It's just a centralisation of lots of different things, and also it's there to deliver your strategy and then those key OKRs and nurture your data model and other things. So it has a different set of jobs to do. But I think it's realising that. Yeah,
it's building as well. It's like every few months we're adding something onto it as well. So where we started, we're using the very sort of basic version of it. We've added bits on as we've gone along. You know, we've talked about we're going to get performance management on there. And so how we're using ZOKRI right now will be different in 6 months' time as we move on. So it's just constantly progressing. I think they can see that progression as well, which always helps.
What could we have done differently or better for you?
I can't really think of anything because I didn't have any expectations beforehand. I didn't know what to expect. I've never been through this sort of progress this process before. It's weird. Like I was sent I think one of your team sent me your platform back in November, and then I was sort of looked through it, read it. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then it kind of discarded it, and then it kind of landed on my desk. Right, you need to do the strategy now. Started doing research, and the name popped up again. I was like, okay, well, this feels more than a coincidence now. And then started going, ended up speaking to you, having a chat, and going from there, really. So, yeah, in terms of improvement, there's nothing I can think of right now. It went better than I thought it would. I didn't really know what to expect, but it's been really beneficial. We pulled everything together. I was really conscious that I didn't just want to write the strategy and present it when I did back in March and it just sit on the shelf. I can see bringing this platform in and putting everything on that platform. I can see how it's making everyone accountable. Even though I'm doing that work before, I can see, the rest of the business can see what's going on. And it's definitely, feels like we've done a lot in a short time already. So, there's nothing I can think of really that I'd say do better for next time, which is probably not the answer you want to hear. But
I know it's a great answer, and I think actually you said something to me last week that has stuck with me, in that it's about how you feel, and you said that you have this sort of quiet, calm confidence in the plan that you've created. So that kind of, that feeling of is this going to work has kind of gone away, and you feel like you're in control and you feel calm. Is that still the feeling that you're feeling? Yeah.
I mean, no matter what chaos is going around me, I guess, I don't know if you've seen any of the X-Men films, but there's a guy in that he runs really fast, and then on the film they slow down and he walks around and he'll like push someone out of the way and then move a chair and stuff. And that's what I feel like. It might be a bit of chaos going around me, but I'm like, well, I know what we're doing. I'm confident what we're doing. We're building now. It feels like we're at the start of something good. We're going to be in a position in a year's time to really kick on, and we're going to have a solid foundation under us, which we wouldn't have had 12 months ago.
Ian, what would you say we know we've really enjoyed working with Ashley and the team there. What do you think the key things are about Ashley and the team that have enabled us to be as impactful as Ashley's describing?
It is funny. It's a bit of the reverse of what I said about us. They're human beings. One of the kind of ways we have a kind of feeling if a company's going to be successful and adopt the kind of ideas that we're suggesting is how open and frank the conversations are in the team. And it's a really open team. There's no hierarchy in it. There's no there's this what we call psychological safety. People are actually prepared to what we call bring the heat. If we disagree, they speak up. It's a really great feeling in that team. I believe it's really honest and open. It's interesting that when you said you'd never met as a team before or didn't do it regularly, that really wasn't apparent to us, and it just makes it really easy coming in as an outsider when you kind of there's a good spirit, because we're always trying to feel our way in, and how much humor is there here. Are they really serious? Because we go into situations like you described where it can be really quite corporate, and it's hard to be a natural self in that situation. Where and you made it really easy for us to fit in. I think there's a great spirit in that leadership team, and think about the progress you've made in the last few months. It's outstanding. So I mean, is that something you nurture, or is it just something that's kind of naturally come together as a team?
I think it's built from the foundations of who we are. A lot of we hire similar people to us, and we're trying to. This decision to go to one customer is kind of really getting back to our core. What's best? 5 of us sat in a room, living by the fly of our seat, and just cracking on and just they serve an trade customer, and that's the kind of ethos we've kind of instilled over the years. You know, we do regularly meet up outside of work. You know, there's people that have stuck relationships here, friends and family. It's that essence, that what we're about. That was probably lacking in the last sort of 12 months, and we've probably gone away from that a little bit. And now it's kind of, there's definitely just a better feeling in here, and I imagine that's what you've seen. You know, everyone is. We have a saying here: if you're not getting the Mickey taken out of you within 2 weeks, then you're probably you're not doing something right. And that's the kind of ethos we have. You know, it's yes, we'll joke and laugh, but we all want to crack on and work hard at the end of the day. But we want to have fun doing it. So I think that's what you saw, especially the retrospective from that point. You know, we've had, if you just look at the numbers, we've had a tough time. You know, the construction industry's been battered over the last sort of 12, 18 months. You know, we've had a lot of sales team leave, but I'm pretty relaxed about it. It's forced us to do a lot of positive change. You know, you in one of our meetings, Matt, you spoke, well, why don't you have a reactivation team? And I sort of sat back after that and I was like, yeah, actually, like, this is stupid. Like, why don't we? And then that snowballed, and now we've got Kane, who's wanted a bit of extra responsibility for ages, and who we were probably going to lose because we hadn't worked out what we were going to do with him. He's stepping up to take that role, and he's building that role out. And there's, you know, thousands of names on our database that he's going to now be looking at and reactivating. So it's that sort of value added thing as well, is in terms of the experience I've had with you guys. It's just, I can't really put a measurement on that, but that's some real positive steps. So I know I've got a tangent there about the team, but yeah.
I think that's what's hard for us to describe as well, because if you read the headlines, we're going to come in and talk to you about strategy. We're going to teach you how to use OKRs. We might facilitate some workshops. What we don't know is how many other ideas outside that scope we're going to have, because we've been around for 20, 30 years in various businesses of various sizes and growth trajectories. So we can't not, whether it's sales initiatives like that, or customer success, or marketing, or any other product in particular, obviously being really strong at product management amongst other things. We know stuff, but we don't know what we don't know how. We can't sort of characterize that before an engagement, but we can't not say what we know during the engagement as well. And if some of that's useful, that's great. So yeah, thanks for flagging that. I think from our perspective, is what makes life easier is also how fast teams learn. And I think if I was to offer you a single compliment, is just how fast you've also learned. You've grabbed everything that we could throw at you, and then upped it and taken it through multiple gears of your own. And along the way, you've sort of adapted as well. So things, and you've been willing to make choices. And I think we work with a lot of leaders that aren't willing to make the tough choices. And I think that's the essence of both strategy and good goal setting. Is at some point you've got to stop doing stuff or put stuff down, and you've got to apply a level of focus. But that focus doesn't come through just gut feel. It comes through rationale and logic, and being able to explain your hypothesis and how you got there. And you also have to bring your team along for a journey. And I think without giving the sort of tough choices that you've made away, because I think the way you considered it, prepared to have those conversations and brought everybody along with you, it was quite exceptional.
Thank you. I think, doing this process, it's given me the confidence to be like, whatever challenge comes up, I know how I'm going to deal with it now. Whereas before, I may have got to the same answer or the right solution, but it would have taken me a lot longer. There would have been a lot of self-doubt. But now it's like, hold on, okay, right, I've got a process I can follow. I know what to do. Okay, right, how do we measure it? We're focusing on stuff that's actually going to make a difference, and we're not just thinking, oh, well, what could we do? Oh, we think it's going to do that, or we think it's going to do that, and then just going off and doing another idea. As you know, I've said, we've very regularly in the past had ideas on a Monday, put them into practice on a Tuesday, and by the next week we forgot about them. And that's kind of like caught up to us, coincided with the industry having a slowdown last year. It's kind of like, well, we need to get our act together now. And it certainly feels like we are.
I think that's also sits around the sort of skills, tools, and frameworks that sit along OKRs. And I think if I was to sort of label just some of them, and maybe you can talk to sort of how some of them are complementary. I mean, you've obviously all the strategic concepts. You've got the metrics models, KPI trees, etc. You've got this idea of experimentation and bringing that language of belief, how you're going to measure that belief and bring that through. Of course, you've got goal setting, but you've got all these sort of activities and other experiments that sit after the actual goal has been set. And then you've got all these ritualized behaviors of how teams talk and how we come together and how you talk about, other opportunities. And then you had sort of prioritization frameworks and how we sort of even evaluate all the different ideas and decide what to do. And I think has a sort of number of interrelated parts that go beyond just this kind of acronym that sits in the middle surprised you?
I think what surprised me is that, you said, I've picked stuff up quickly, but some of the team that maybe it was like, I'm not sure if they're gonna probably need a lot more support on this. They've taken it on themselves, and they're coming to me and I'm prompted and talking, right, I'm gonna do this. I need to go find the baseline for this, and I'm like, God, 6 months ago, like they wouldn't even know what baseline was, and like they've really just picked it up and run with it. So I think there's a subconscious thing, I think, with the team. They've had that news for a while, and then we put this in place, and it's like, I feel subconsciously that it's given them direction or a bit of purpose in certain aspects, of something to, I can see the end goal, I can see how this works. So again, that's one of those like intangible value added things that's come out of the goal setting and capabilities and all that. That's something that's come out of the back of it as well, how much they've picked up and run with it, which has surprised me, some of them.
And they'll carry those around for life. That's what something that I always sort of realize is when you look, you always remember where you learned all of these different techniques and skills and capabilities. And then obviously you apply them within the business, and your colleagues pick them up and they become part of the fabric of how you do things. And even for an individual, they don't, they might not always work for you, but they'll remember where they learned it, and they are skills that we do carry around with us.
Yeah. And what's nice is that they're actually challenging me now. Before, when I've introduced stuff in my head, I'm like, come on, challenge me back. Like, I'm having an open forum here for you to challenge the status quo. I'm trying to upskill you that way. And in the past, people are just, okay, right, you're head of strategy, we'll just do what you say. But there's certain things that I'm like, well, why don't we do this? It's like, hold on, we need to do X, Y, Z first, or we're not measuring the right thing here. So that's been great to see as well, because I want them to be challenging, be pushing back. They're on the ground every day. Some of them, they're their heads to the fire. They see what's going on. So that's been very beneficial as well.
Amazing. Well,
brilliant.
I don't know, Ian, what have you got? Any more reflections you want to share, or any questions for Ashley?
No, I just wanted to really that there was, I know we talked about it a bit, but the way you took that key strategic decision about your customer was actually textbook, I thought. I mean, I've worked in a lot of organizations in strategy myself, and really I've seen such a clear-eyed decision made in the right way, with the right intent. And probably one of the most famous writers about strategy, a guy called Michael Porter, says, yes, strategy is choosing what not to do. And this was a perfect example of that. And if you're writing a little case study, I have not seen many better examples done in exactly the right way, which I think bodes incredibly well for the future. I think it's real testament to the fact that you're not just talking strategy and talking about theory, you're putting it in practice. I think it was great to watch. Yeah, and that's something that battle between the customer type, something that's come up over the last 2 to 3 years. It's been rumbling under the surface whenever I brought it up.
it's always been pushed back, and that's probably because I didn't bring it up in the right way. And yeah, going through this process, speaking to you guys, outside experience, it kind of brought it around again. Right, how am I gonna do this and get this done? And certainly this process has helped me do that. You know, I was in a meeting with Phil, and we're going through some numbers, and we're talking about X, Y, Z. And it just came right out, came out of nowhere. God, I just said that. I was like, well, why don't we stop doing this? Because I've been pushed back on that for 2-3 years, I kind of put it to bed, put it to one side, but then it sprang out, and then it was like, hold on, okay, well, let's think about this. Let's look at the numbers. Let's talk, and now we're rolling. So yeah, I'm excited, and that's where that calm confidence comes from. You know, I'm expecting the next 3 months maybe to dip a little bit while we find our feet, but we're going to be in a much better position come next financial year. So really good. Brilliant.
I got one final question. If someone was considering hiring us for a similar gig, what would you say to them, and what advice would you give them?
Do it. I would say even if you're not going to take it on, just do that initial phase. See what they have to say. You know, you've got years of experience, loads of contacts to lean on. You know, I'm meeting my partner's MD. I'm meeting him in a couple of months, so I probably will. So I'm going to ask him about his strategy and how he does it, because I know he's, you know, similar sort of size business to us, and see how he works. But I think it's the classic thing of people will write a strategy, yeah, we're doing it, and put it on the shelf, and that's for me. This is not just put it on the shelf and forgetting about it. We're bringing this to life. So I would just, yeah, if I was going to say to other people, look, just consider it. The team there are really good. Even if you decide, right, you know, the platform's not for me, then there may be other learnings to get. You know, I've gone through in this conversation about some of the other bits and pieces that have come out of this that I know we can't really measure, but there's just value added just by having you guys as contacts. And on a personal level, friends, I hope. So
yeah. That's true. And you're making me blush, but I'm very delighted we got the chance to work together. I know we'll talk forever, and we will be friends, or our friends. And I think I can't wait to track the business more than anything else. You know, it's like waiting for Christmas. You can already see the change. You can already see it, the numbers being impacted. And you know, I remember Phil got me when we arrived. He said, you know, I want to be this much bigger company. And it's like, okay, let's see, because everybody wants to be a much bigger company, right? And I think 3-4 months on, I know you're going to become that much bigger company. And again, you know, if we were red, amber, green, putting a confidence level on it, it's absolutely green, based on what I've seen and what I've watched over the last 3-4 months.
Yeah, that's what I'd say to people. If you're serious about growing and you actually want to make decisions that are gonna have an impact, then you should absolutely consider doing this.
Yeah. Thank you. So kind. I think, you know, from our perspective, it's from the heart too, which makes all the difference. Thank you.
No problem.
Stop the recording.